Hey, what's up everybody? Lawler here, your inside source for all things Rocket League. We have got more majors coming at you soon. Coming up this weekend on Friday is going to be the South American major that is technically now a regional. We ended up doing this for OCE and you guys seem to enjoy it, so we're going to be doing it for South America. So this is your top 5 most likely teams to win the South American major. Before we get into the specifics of the teams, $25,000 up for grabs on Friday. The tournament will start at 11 a.m. Eastern on the main Rocket League channel for South America, where there's going to be 16 teams trying to battle out in a Swiss-style format, just like the rest of the fall split, eventually where the top 8 will end up going into a final bracket, and we'll be competing in the following week. What's different, though, about the North America, the South America, and the European region is that this is going to be done over the course of 2 weeks rather than back-to-back days like it was for OCE. So on Friday, the 16th of this week, there will be the Swiss stage, and then the following week on Friday, which will be the 23rd, that will be the top 8 bracket, which is single elim, the finals of everything. And then on Saturday is going to be North America and so on and so forth. So I'll make sure to cover North America and Europe in the upcoming days as well. So the top 5 teams and ones that are clearly at advantage, as you can see, are actually by this graphic. These are your top 5 teams in order. We're going to go by them one by one. Ellevens, True Neutral, the 3 Sins, No Mercy Esports, and Noble. These are the only teams that really have shown any promise from week to week when it comes to their placements in the regional events. Something that's a little bit different about South America is there has only been 2 regional events as compared to 3 like in other regions. So that whole situation has been very weird. Up first, it's going to be Ellevens, and this is the team that most people are going to recognize and probably the most solidified roster out of anything in South America. You can go look at their history on the Wikipedia and just leagues ahead of everybody else. Since August, they've taken first place in every single tournament except for one, which was the Grand Series Event 1 final, where they took second to the 3 Sins. This team consists of Card, Tander, and Kaio. You guys should know King Card. He is one of the better players in the region and known for his capabilities. All these players have been to LAN before. Tander is a player I'm a big fan of. But ultimately, this roster has a ton of talent. Clear expected to win. This team has shown performance not only in their region, but also at the international stage as well. The interesting thing, though, is a lot of teams have made roster changes in the South American regions, but for the most part, the same top 6 roughly stay together. This specific iteration of the roster has been together since March 20th. If you guys don't know Ellevens, this is the team that Gareth Bale is actually in association with. We then jump to the second place spot, which is True Neutral. This team consists of Shad, Razebull, and AJG. This is a team that has gone through some more recent roster changes as early as April, but ultimately have had some pretty solid results. Usually it is between them and Ellevens for that number 1 spot. But most recently there has been some struggles getting a 3rd place finish in September. And then at the beginning of October, they had a 4th place finish where they lost to Noble. So normally I would probably only make this list 4 teams or 5 teams at the absolute maximum. But Noble recently has been making a resurgence, and we'll talk about them at the very end. The good thing to note about True Neutral is all their losses are coming from the top dogs for the most part, and it has been pretty much what's been standing in their way in their path to going to the very top. Obviously, Noble being the exception to that most recently, but other than that, their last 3 losses are coming from Ellevens. So, again, a team that you should see at the top. Up next should be a recognizable name as the 3 Sins. This was a team that also made it to the World Championship in the past with some very notable names. They've got Maddox, Vault, and PJ. 3 very talented players that have shown that they can compete at the world stage as well. Probably the most dominant team that we've seen. This roster has seen a lot of different iterations, but ultimately it was formed on August 8th by Maddox. Vault ended up joining in late September, and then PJ ended up joining in the middle of January of this year. This team did start off a little bit shaky at the beginning of this year in March with a 4th place finish where they ended up losing. But since then, they have shown that they can be a top 2 or a top 3 team. 2nd place in the first Prime Series, 2nd place in the 2nd Prime Series. Had a rough one when it mattered most. They ended up losing to No Mercy, actually, in the Grand Series final event, which is the kind of head honcho, what they determine on who goes to lands and majors or not. And then in the other matches, either 3rd or 2nd. So most of the time they will find themselves in the semifinals, but if they do not, they're losing to kind of one of those underdog teams, which is what worries me a little bit about 3 Sins. I do know this team is very talented and they have a lot of potential from what I've seen. And I'll admit, I'm not as well versed in Sam as I wish I was. Normally I rely on people like Chimako for that. But again, this is a team that a lot of expectations are on. But you are starting to see this resurgence of other teams that have kind of moved up as well. They don't win as convincingly as I would hope, as they are still dropping games to ones like No Mercy. Next roster is going to be No Mercy Esports. This is made up of Heppy, Brad, and Drops. Brad actually used to be a sub for the Three Sins quite a while back, so it's good to see him on a starting roster. This is a team that has been turning some heads as of late, not necessarily in the major events, but still in the other events. They are taking victories in like community tournaments over teams like Ellevens. So if they're playing their game, they can be competitive. I don't have an expectation of them to get a victory here. I do feel there is a consistent top 3 in the South America region with Ellevens, True Neutral, as well as the Three Sins. But this is a team that is kind of like that dark horse team, like I said, in the OCE region, where there is moments where it does feel like if they are kind of on their day, like Mind Freak was, they can play major upsets. So keep that in mind with this team. Not a whole lot else to talk about. Last but not least is going to be Noble Esports. This is Happycamper, Firefox, and Hanan. This is a team that also has a lot of very talented players, and as of late have actually been making kind of that middle of the pack, but more swords towards the top. They almost always find themselves in 3rd place or higher, and you can see that in their results as well. If you take a look at Liquipedia, you're talking 3rd place in Prime Series 1, 3rd place in Prime Series 2. In the Grand Series event number 1, it was a 5-8 tie where they lost to Ellevens, so strength of schedule may have been an issue. But then they come back in Prime Series 2 and 3, and instead of being 3rd, end up getting into 2nd, so they're taking one step further in that bracket. And then in the Grand Series event number 2, the big one, they end up taking 3rd. So slow, steady improvements coming from this roster, and rightfully so considering how much talent is on the team. Another team that I actually probably will give more of a nod to as compared to No Mercy. I think this team actually has a lot of talent and is a very difficult team to play against. You're talking in their last matches, they are almost always going the distance against the top tier teams. Again, this team is one that you should keep an eye on. Noble could play major upset. This honestly could go any way. I think that's the exciting thing about some of these other regions now, especially Sam and OC that don't get enough credit and love, is that these teams are extremely competitive. They're super talented. And even though I will admit I'm not as well versed about them, they are very exciting to watch. The complication with the Sam playstyle is they are always send to the house. If they can play with no mistakes, they are one of the best in the world, and we've heard that from teams that they've scrimmed against at LANs in the past, where if in Season 8 in Madrid, if the team was able to recreate what they do in scrims on stage, they would be unbeatable. So a lot of talent for this team, a lot of mechanics. If you guys enjoy North American Rocket League and you like the flashy and the showy stuff, you're going to love South America. So please make sure you guys tune in. This starts on Friday, again on the 16th. At 11 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you tune into it. It should be an exciting one. We'll have more follow-up once these kind of first weeks pass on by. I haven't done an OCE recap. I'll probably recap everything all at once. That is going to wrap it up for me today. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, as always, drop those in the comments below. If you guys have some extra information like you guys did for OCE, make sure you guys leave those in the comments, as I'm sure there's a lot of people that greatly appreciate it alongside myself. But that is going to do it for me. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.